thought they had banished us forever. But now... finally... we have returned.
Hello and welcome back to another Writer's Showcase, ladies and gentlemen. Always a pleasure to have you guys here, giving feedback to these wonderful writers. Our guests for today, we will start off first with our beloved Eldritch Cat guy, Count Valerian.
Greetings.
Yep.
Anybody in the chat yet?
Nope, they don't really come for these unfortunately.
Someone will trump eventually if we link it in the
I already did.
announcements. Yeah.
I already did.
Oh, okay.
And so I feel like this one is appropriate for Mr. Aspiring, considering what we watched a couple days ago.
Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
Oh, yes.
Last Batman movie we're seeing.
We're gonna watch The Batman, and then as a palate cleanser, we're gonna watch Joker because I love that movie.
Which one's the Batman?
The Batman. It's the one that just barely came out with Robert Pattinson.
Okay, so the new one.
Yeah.
The new one. Okay. They're starting over again and having yet another.
I'm actually seeing
sorry.
that. I think this Tuesday.
Valerian, you had something to say?
I was just asking, is this are they going to start all over again a third time?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a sequel thing or a one-off or what. I just know that they're really don't like a lot of what's been happening, at least a lot of the response from the DCU. They also don't like since Warner Brothers is very reactionary, they really don't like the fact that certain elements of the audience don't like them. Like, a lot of people say that Zack Snyder is a fascist because he's an objectivist and he likes Ayn Rand.
And you put a swastika in Justice League. How dare he?
Well, there's a funny thing. They're not anything. It was in a historical context, so it's not a dog whistle.
It's not, but these are the kind of people who would point that out.
Yeah, they're dumb. Yeah. Anyway, Valerian, are you still eating, or would you be able to go first?
I'm still eating.
Alrighty.
All right.
That's a quick question. Go for it.
All right. There's no one in the comments, so I won't. I was thinking maybe post the doc link for anyone who wants to read it, since I like reading it. But if you remember, last chapter, Q has decided to go to Sullen 2 to hide away for a little while. Kind of go underground for a bit and then leave when things have cleared up to go visit a friend. And at the end of the chapter, we find out that... Oh, never mind. Someone is in the comments. Give me a sec. If you wish to follow along. Here. Feel free to comment. Everyone is following Q. And with that, here we go. His shadow wore a brown cloak, worn at the edges from excessive use, and a large rip in the middle that split it almost in two. covered with odd stains that stood out even at a distance. It looked like the cloak of a beggar. Even the hood, which covered his face, was unraveling at the seams. But no beggar walked that confidently, or surely. The man's back was straight, his steps quiet but large and steady. He didn't look over his shoulder or glance around, focused solely on him, unafraid of being out in the open. He was also too large to be a beggar, nearly as tall as Q and much bulkier. Must be the one Podal was so nervous about hiding, Q thought with a scowl. Should have followed up on my dread after all. He kept on forward for a few more buildings, forcing himself not to look back before making a quick turn. Taking out MKR, he changed his gravity to his side and did a small hop under the stone wall of the building, now the ground in his perspective. The ground was now looked like it was dotted with evenly spaced square holes and dropped off a few feet away to fall the length of the street. The lack of sky to his side made him feel slightly trapped, but he could use the cavern ceiling to his advantage if needed. Q took a few steps upward and to the side to stay out of sight and reach when his shadow turned the corner, careful not to fall in any of the windows. He held his MKR at the ready, pointed at where the man would be. As Q waited, gritting his teeth, sweat starting to form on his forehead despite the cold. The shadow should have turned the corner by now. Debating whether to take a look or stay where he was, Q looked back to see if his shadow, realizing he had been seen and that Q was waiting to ambush him, decided to go around the building and watch him from the other corner. No one was there. Letting out an annoyed sigh, he took 2 steps forward. Q didn't have time to curse as his shadow jumped out of the window above him, tackling him. Hitting the ground, the actual ground, with a snap of his head, Q fired his MKR, too dazed to know where he was even pointing it. He felt that sudden weight on him leave, and, coughing, gathered himself up, his gravity still keeping him to the wall. As he was standing up, his shadow, not wasting a second, was already up and pressed him down in a chokehold, both hands pressing down his neck and one knee on his stomach. Feeling his lungs burning, he hadn't even been able to catch his breath from the tackle, Q tried to point the MKR at his shadow, but the man removed a hand from his throat and used it to force his aim away, the other still pressing down on his windpipe. Black dots started clouding Q's vision. Returning his gravity to normal, so he was lying on the floor, Q bent his leg as to aim his foot at the man's back, using his other knee to help. Making his boots repulse, he saw the man's eyes widen before he was suddenly thrown off him, head first. Gasping, Q scrambled up and activated his atmospheric suit, breathing in the warmer air with relief. I swear this is karmic punishment for choking that pilot, he thought idly as he coughed. His shadow, despite having a bleeding cut in the forehead, got up immediately, seemingly unfazed. Q shot him down again, another small wave of blue energy pushing his shadow to the ground. He had put the settings on spread and stun earlier, intending to question him. Quickly changing the settings to concentrated and lethal, as the man went for another lunge, Q fired. The small blue sphere plowed through the man's side cleanly, a sharp crack like a hammer hitting rock echoing out as it hit the building behind him. The man's face turned into a rictus of pain as he clenched a nearby area around the wound and collapsed, his blood already puddling on the smooth ground. The wall of the building had cracked where energy hit, all spreading from a hole that almost went through to the other side. Watching his shadow until his chest stilled, Q holstered his MKR and leaned back against the building, changing his gravity so he was lying down on it. That had been more than he expected. Retracting his atmospheric suit with a shiver, he felt the back of his head. He didn't appear to be bleeding, fortunately. He came out of that fight with barely a bruise. Only because he seemed intent to just choke me. If he had a knife or a plasma arm, with the element surprise, I might be dead. Looking down at the shadow's body, Q mumbled, "Who are you?" This man had been instructed to follow him, at least. Was he working for Podal? For Kulas? Or was this a coincidence? Reverting his gravity back to normal, Q glanced around, watching to see if anyone was looking out or came to investigate the noise the MKR made, but he didn't see anyone. Another appeal of Cellin 2. The residents kept to themselves. Satisfied, he started making a circle around the body. The cloak was now mostly red from the blood, and his hood was pulled back enough to make out his shadow's face. Extremely pale, almost sickly, he seemed human, with scars scattered all over, crisscrossing with each other. His shirt and pants were clean, at least in comparison to the sorry excuse for a cloak, and his boots were in good condition, if well worn. So he wanted to pass off as a beggar, but doesn't even have the lack of fashion sense to know how to dress like a vagabond properly. Or maybe he just didn't care for more complete disguise? The cloak is enough for an initial glance, and hides the clothes underneath adequately enough. What else is it hiding? Extending his atmospheric suit again, he wasn't going to touch that cloak with his bare hands. He reached down to search the shadow's corpse. As his fingers brushed the cloak, his shadow, still a mere moment ago, grabbed his throat. Startled, Q repulsed his boot in an attempt to jump away. The shadow kept his grip on Q's throat, causing Q's lower body to fly up while the rest of him stayed exactly where he was held. His shadow, having a moment of inspiration, took the opportunity to shove Q's face into the ground, the rest of him following after. Looking up, Q managed to see his shadow moving to sit on him and rolled over, changing his gravity to lift him upward, but his shadow was already on top of him and kept him pinned to the ground, if with difficulty. A repulse from his boots, and Q and his shadow flew up, Q getting out from under him like an air bubble trying to get out from under a hand. His shadow still managed to keep hold of his neck, however, dangling from it and slowly pulling him back down. Q punched him in the face, and when it didn't phase him, headbutted him right in the nose. Except for a bloody nose, his shadow didn't seem the least bit affected. Made of Sarnum now, are we? Q thought angrily, pulling out his MKR. Poking it right in his eye socket, Q pulled the trigger. Half of his shadow's face exploded, blood and gore getting everywhere. And he still held on, his other eye wide and looking at the MKR nervously. Q felt a chill as a realization hit him, and he lifted the MKR for another shot. His shadow didn't try to stop him, instead squeezing tighter on Q's stretched neck. Blowing off the rest of his face, Q cursed as the shadow's arm still held on, as tightly as when his shadow had had a head. Changing his gravity back to normal and dropping back to the ground to stop his neck from being pulled, Q searched in his coat for the toxin Podal had seen earlier. Feeling it, he pulled it out and jabbed it in the shadow's shoulder, injecting every last drop. He counted the seconds as, finally, the arm's grip on him started to loosen until his entire body fell limp. Scrambling away from the body, Q put his arm against the wall for support as he caught his breath, feeling his bruised throat. His eyes drifted back to the body, afraid it would get back up. That had been Gollum, one of the angels of the Executor, known for being unkillable and incapable of feeling pain. There was no one else that could have been. His thoughts couldn't get past that initial realization. That had been an angel. One of the angels had been sent to kill him. His normal exhilaration after a fight was sobered by how close what was considered the weakest of the angels had been to killing him. One of the angels, he thought again. He always knew the angels might come after him one day, but he expected to fare far better than this. And Podal had been hiding him, he remembered. A bit of his fire came back. I am going to make Podal eat that dress after breaking his leg so the hem touches that soon-to-be bloody carpet. Startlink, he focused back on Gollum's body. But before that, taking out one of his explosives, he threw it at Gollum's body, blowing it apart into large chunks that flew in all directions. He repeated the process until the body was in so many pieces you wouldn't be able to tell what species it had been. If that doesn't kill you, I swear by Cecile's claws, I will throw you into a sun. Pulling out his MKR, Q ran and changed his gravity to take him down the street, his coat flapping frantically as he rushed down, feet first. Counting the buildings and taking out his ETM grapple, he shot the grapple and swung between two buildings, changing his gravity to keep him taking toward the hostel. As he neared Podal's hostel, he slowly returned his gravity to normal, orienting himself so his boots scaped the ground as he came to a stop in front of the entrance. Slipping an explosive in between his fingers, ready to toss, Q reduced his gravity, or the effect of gravity on him until his step had a bounce. Doing a small hop to the hostel door, Q went inside. End of chapter. So, thoughts, comments, critiques.
Pretty simple. I'm getting a Zeth vibe from this guy in a lot of ways.
Because of the gravity thing?
That and kind of just his like kind of the introduction of a just kind of a fighter type. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I can see that. Not quite as insane.
No, it's not terribly. That would be an amazing achievement, to say the least.
So, what did you guys? Well, Blair, do you have thoughts?
Let's see. Yeah, I guess it's pretty straightforward. This chap is swallowing. Well, I mean, this chap is following him, and they have a fight, and he doesn't know. We don't know who that chap is yet. Is what I'm getting from that. And let's see. There were a couple of things. Let's see. Cecile's claws. Is that like some kind of world building religion thing?
Cecile's an angel, and her main weapon are claws, and she is very, very feared.
Oh, okay.
She is as insane as Zit, if not more.
Oh. Will she come up in the story later?
Not in this book, but later, yes.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, apart from that, it seemed fine. There were like a couple of places. Let's see. That bit of cause to fly up. I was wondering about that. I thought it might be a little bit complicated. There's a way of simplifying that.
What?
Yeah. What was that? Something. I'm just letting. I'm looking for my notes, which is why it's a little vague. Something about cause to fly up, and something like that.
I'm trying to remember what you're referencing.
Yeah.
You can look in my doc if you want to get me the exact example.
Yeah, maybe look at that later. Get out. There's one sentence though where "get out from under" came out twice, and came up twice. Some small thing. I didn't see anything wrong with "thought idly" though. That sounds okay to me.
Did I have idly? Give me a sec.
Thought idly. What's his name? Bright Lord was animadverting upon that one. I don't see anything particularly bad about that.
Well, it's kind of just like "thought idly" sounded like an odd choice of words after an action scene.
You mean from the context?
Yeah,
I can see that, but there is no real reason the thought came, so I thought idly would work. Do you have a better suggestion? Or do you think I should just remove it?
I think the main context of it is basically you're like trying to convey that this is like is this supposed to be like a pretty average day for this guy?
Not particularly, no. This is a
Okay.
little bit different.
Just another day in the life of.
Yeah.
Well, he's being attacked by an angel, though at this point he doesn't realize that. So you could say this is somewhat a bit above average, but within his peripheral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like a good word selection.
I mean, you could just say he wondered. It amounts to the same thing.
Well, it
That's
wasn't a
probably
wondering
true, yeah.
thought. But it's not really a wondering thought. It's like, I swear, this is karmic punishment for taking the pilot. It's like he's kind of cracking a joke inside his head.
You could just say thought grimly. I'm kind of when it's grim. then that might work, I suppose.
Is there a way to say he thought with grim amusement? Is there a word for that?
I think that pretty much that's just the word.
You could just say he thought with grim amusement. That
Yeah.
works fine.
Yeah, that would work fine.
So,
Oh, Tiny Cosmic Castaway. Which one? I've seen that movie. I just can't remember most of the character names. I remember how they look more than their names. Cosmic Castaway. Don't remember that guy.
so what did you guys think of the fight scene? Was it easy to follow? Did it seem clunky or boring?
I guess I was kind of like a little bit confused as to the geography of the fight. Like kind of what things looked like around them, but that could just be me.
Oh, yeah, I guess there is that.
Yeah, I described it in the last chapter, but you might have forgotten, which is why. Because I was like, I don't need to rehash how gray everything looks. Not in the middle of a fight.
Makes sense.
It was easy to follow, though, in terms of what was happening, right?
I would say so.
Okay, did the gravity references seem overdone ever?
No.
Okay.
I kind of think so. I think that so long as you're not like lashing stuff, like using that particular language, I think you're fine.
It's like I'm not too worried about doing that. It's just like lashing is a quick way to make it clear what's happening, while I'm constantly have to say, he changed his gravity, and it's just so many more words that I'm constantly having to use. Because he's constantly changing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, if you say lashing, people immediately will think of Brando Sando, the Mando.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Currently have not thought of a
Prolific
term.
God. The guy who says, screw you, traditional publishing, I'm going to make all the money. On my own. Pretty much, I think like he's made. I think like the Kickstarter is now at like. I need to look that up.
Is that he's not like selling it like that? The Kickstarter is just what he's getting.
Yeah, that's just how he's doing things. He's not
And
doing
is
Wait, so does that mean I can't get the book outside of paying for the Kickstarter?
I think that you basically are paying for it via. Like it will be delivered to you if you back the Kickstarter.
And if I don't,
I think that maybe you can order it from his warehouse.
what about the normal distributors like Barnes and Noble and stuff like that?
Maybe they'll do that. I'm not sure. But I just know that like their aim right now is he's going to just use Kickstarter to publish these books and get them out. Like he's publishing and printing them himself. Like he's not going through a traditional publishing company, and he doesn't need to since the Kickstarter is at 22 million and counting.
I'm now just worried because I normally get his books from my library, and if he's doing it via like this,
you might get it via the library, but like currently, like this is what it looks like. Like it is consistently climbing. Like they put a $1 million goal, and it's at 22 million.
Yeah, I order his books from Barnes and Noble, but it seems like he's already rich enough in the first place that he can afford to do this.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. It's basically kind of the statement of once you get successful enough, you don't need traditional publishing anymore.
Fucking madman.
You can pretty much just publish.
Jesus Christ, 22. It's been out for what? Just a few days? It hasn't even been out a week, has it?
Nope. Not even a week. It's been like 2-3 days. It's already at 22 million.
Sanderson, what are you doing? What are you doing to me?
So Yeah, essentially, like he has just made somewhere in the vicinity of 12. Like, if you take, say, like he's going to make 60% profit, like of this is going to go into 60% of it is going to his pocket because the other 40 is the costs of printing, shipping, that sort of thing. He still made somewhere in the vicinity of $13 million.
God damn it. This man makes everyone look so pale in comparison.
Yep.
Super Brando.
Yeah.
Brando Sando.
I would say from people wanting more after the. Yeah. I want good stuff after the Wheel of Time.
Well, hey, if I heard he has 3 Cosmo Works, which I can buy in 1 year, just new ones, I totally fucking would.
Yeah,
That is unprecedented.
Yeah, they might go into. They might go into. They might go into it. I'm not sure yet. Like
Into
they
what?
might have like if they print it, I think they can probably put them out in Barnes and Noble. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work.
You'd think he would be. You'd think he would still want to use things like Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble that a lot of people get their books from.
I think that is the major thing. I think that like the Kickstarter is just to get this thing published and printed, and they know how many to send out, and then I think that people can just get. I think that people can get it on Amazon. Like they have it in ebook. Part of it is like if you just back the product, you get it in ebook. One of them in ebook form.
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna consider getting it. By the time the Kickstarter is a Kickstarter for all 5 books, like the 22 million.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
So you pay and you get all 5.
Yeah, I think so.
What's the minimum donation?
I think it's like $10 or something.
I am total 5 books for $10. What the fuck?
I think I'm not sure how it works necessarily. Like I know there's like I think the okay, it's actually 40 quarterly
40.
ebooks. It's quarterly ebooks for 40. 160 is quarterly books in premium hardcover.
160 is for what in hardcover?
160 is quarterly books in premium hardcover.
What's quarterly books?
It means you'll get a book every quarter. So it's $10 per book if you do ebook, and it's $40 per book if you want to get them in hardcover.
So I can do 40 and get all the ebooks.
Yep, pretty much.
My God. These are like, how much does a Sanderson book normally cost? There's
It
hardcover.
It was pretty. It was bad as a show. Like, just even like people who had been liking the show kind of turned on it by the end, and ultimately people are stating this was a really bad. Like, this is a pretty weak first season, even by like TV show standards, because they focused on a stupid mystery box for most of the season. And that really interfered with a lot of character development and makes it feel like everybody's static.
Tyler, let me be clear. This show made me emotionally numb when watching it. I was desperately wanting it to be more terrible so I could feel something when watching it. Because it was terrible in the worst way possible. It was terrible sludge with nothing to make me angry, even. because there was nothing there.
It would have been a riot if it had been really bad. The Wheel of Time, you mean?
Yeah. Like if it was even honestly, like Legend of the Seeker is better written than Wheel of Time.
I would
And that's
watch Game
really
of
sad.
I would watch Game of Thrones season 8 several more times because at least I felt something at the stupidity. There was something to say, and this is just like, what is there? Yeah, it's the worst kind of bad, the boring bad. You are so awful. I can't even hate you. I have a disdain for you, but I don't hate you.
I'm like,
Also, an average cost of like a Mistborn book is $12 to $15. So Sanderson is giving us what are basically Mistborn linked books, 4 of them for 10 each. Steal.
These are all Mistborn books. Are any of these Stormlighty books?
I know we just know that they're in the Cosmere. So basically they're in the same. So they're basically in the same galaxy.
I think he mentioned they're linked-ish. Like, between like Mistborn and Stormlight. And by the way, most of his books are between Mistborn and Stormlight. Mistborn are the smaller ones.
Well, technically the smallest ones are Alcatraz books.
I'm not counting those.
Yeah.
Because they're not. I don't really like middle grade tripe either.
The galaxy, it's a little bit narrow, don't you find?
Well,
what do you mean?
Currently there are 6 or 7 planets.
It's only one galaxy.
Well, supposedly, from what he said on his WOBs, basically the universe of Cosmere is like a really large galaxy or a dwarf universe. Like, that's how the Cosmere is. Is that like an actual universe?
I feel cramped in just one galaxy.
You would. But that's how the Cosmere is. Is this a really, really big galaxy?
Well, considering there are multiple gods per thing, it seems like it's pretty multiple gods per multiple gods per planet. Makes sense.
Except for Autonomy's planet. Taladin is only one god and will remain one god.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of them have multiple, which is odd. We still have like 2 we don't know about, right? We don't know the names of.
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So yeah, I am gonna fund this Kickstarter eventually and get those 4 books. Yeesh.
Alrighty.
May as well, I suppose.
Yeah. Alright, Valerian, your turn. Or are you not done eating?
I'm done. Why am I muting myself?
Valerian, go mute.
That's a good one. Okay, I'm just trying to find it. Sorry. Count of Monte Fata. We're going to do a bit more of Middle Earth, of Count of Monte Cristo in Middle Earth. So basically, some Wargamges has been taken off by the police on suspicion of being a Sharkolionist, and the steward Villefaramir is going to try to examine him. So that's what's happening now. On arriving in his office, Monsieur de Villefaramir observed the usual niceties of his exalted position, which chiefly involved making the accused wait as long as humanly or inhumanly possible. Finally, he assumed the gravity that his office required. Let the accused be brought into my presence, he commanded. If he hoped to see an abject halfling cringing with dread, he was disappointed. The hobbit who stood before him exhibited all the indignation of falsely accused innocence. Who and what are you? Interrogated Villefaramir. Samwar Gamgez, a hobbit, replied the accused. You are charged with plotting to overthrow Aragon and restore the usurper Charcoleon, said the steward gravely. What do you say in reply? His face was stern and commanding, and a keen wit lay behind his searching glance. See here, steward, said Samwar, planting himself squarely in front of Villefaramir, with a look on his face as if he were addressing a hobbit gamin who had offered what he called blague when questioned about visits to the bordel. I have never had any political opinions at all, for I find them rather above my station and expensive besides. Monsieur, today is my wedding day, and I expected to marry my beloved and become captain, not spend the happiest day of my life in prison. Villefaramir looked at Gamgez closely. It was obvious that the halfling was speaking the truth, for his nose did not grow. Moreover, Gamgez's account of the interrupted wedding feast struck a sympathetic chord in Villefaramir's bosom, and he pondered the sensation he would make at his own party by elaborating on the paradox that summoned him from his own felicity to destroy that of another. This thought, and the expectation of Vindouillet's gratitude at his mercy, rendered the steward's physiognomy so joyous that Gamgez smiled in return. Do you have any enemies? Inquired Monsieur de Villefaramir. Perhaps your cargo contains something of value, and such things rarely breed peace among confederates, as is shown time again in the works of Baguin. I have no enemies, monsieur, replied Gamgez, although Pipon did seem a bit fâché during the wedding feast. Perhaps the mushrooms did not agree with him. And Sackville Danglars once challenged me to a duel when I complained that he was taking more than his share of spoons. That is all that comes to mind. Villefaramir nodded sagely. My friend, I believe you to be innocent, that I must do my duty. What do you say about the letter you are going to deliver from Charcoleon? I was doing so at the behest of my captain on his deathbed, Monsieur le Steward, said Gamgez. Never disobey your captain's last wishes. Never, 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 never. That was my right rule. The unshakable principle of my life. Ah, I see, returned Villefaramir. Or I see that it may have been so. I must, however, enjoin you in the name of justice to show me this letter. Gamgez retrieved the letter from his backpack, where it was sequestered amid pots, pans, rope, tobacco pouches, tawdry brooches from Lot d'Aloria, and other bagatelles that Samwar fancied. Monsieur de Villefaramir took one look at the envelope and gasped with horror. It was addressed to his father, Denis Tourtier. As the room collapsed like the Tour de Baradur in the novel of Bilbon, the steward would not have been more stupefied, nay, crushed. With trembling hand he removed the letter, and as he read, his face assumed the expression of greater and greater terror, until by the end of it he was shaking. He sat for several minutes with his head in his hands. Do you need some cognac, Monsieur le Steward? Inquired Gamgez. You look unwell. I will ring for assistance at once. No, cried Villefaramir. I alone command here. Monsieur, it was to aid you, said Gamgez. I want no aid, replied Villefaramir. I need no aid. It was but a temporary malaise. Oh, If he knows the content of this letter, he thought, I am annihilated. Pardon me. This letter, I am speaking only for your own good. This letter must be destroyed at once, said Villefort-Ramire in a quavering voice. He seized the letter forthwith and threw it into the fireplace, where it crackled merrily and burnt like the apéritifs of the Balrogs. Oh, your goodness itself, cried Gamgez. Now your secret is safe, said the steward. Tomorrow you will be freed, but should anyone question you on this letter, deny all knowledge. Why not release me at once? Asked Gamgez. Rosédes awaits. There are certain formalities which must be observed before you can be delivered from prison, replied Monsieur de Villefort-Ramire. But short now, doubt not, will be your abiding there. Good monsieur, kind monsieur, wise monsieur, cried Gamgez. You are too gracious to me. Villefort-Ramire sighed, but made no answer. Let's see. And now we're at the next chapter. This is the next chapter. Maybe I'll just read a page or two of that. How long have I been reading? Just like 10 minutes, right?
Around, give or take.
Okay. I think we can just do a couple of pages of the next chapter. This is Chapitre 3. Numéro, 1420 and Numéro 144. I don't feel like saying that in French. Now I must do you discourtesy, said Monsieur de Villefort-Ramire. I hope this may be forgiven in one who has had the civility not to order your execution when you had not been convicted of any crime. But alas, you must spend the night in a prison strictly pro forma, sine veritatem sententiarum meam si non iulma inquantuva, will be released tomorrow. Very well, replied Gamgez. I have endured at sea far worse things than one night's imprisonment. Villefort-Ramire rang a bell, and a guard arrived. Blindfold this guest, said the steward, securely, but not so as to discomfort him. Lead him to... And here he whispered something in the guard's ear that Gamgez could not hear. The guard blindfolded Somewhere and gently but firmly led him to his cell, which was clean and but a little mephitic, and altogether lacking in good herb. Some hours later, several guards, led by two unpleasant brutes, opened the door to Gamgez's cell and led him out. I am free, he cried, tears of joy streaming down his cheeks. Somewhere is free. His transports were abruptly interrupted when a heavy hand covered his mouth. Hola, you rat of the Mount of Merde! Cease your squealing, or we will occupy ourselves with you, said one of the brutes. And it would not be sybaritic either, at least not for you, added the other brute, firmly tying Somewhere's hands. They led Gamgez to the seashore and forced him into a boat. Where are you taking me? Insisted Gamgez. When Monsieur de Villefort-Ramire hears how you have treated me, he will not be pleased at all. Oh non, pas du tout. Parbleu, your manners are worse than those of the customs officials in Lotaloria. It is to no place so fair that we lead you, retorted one of the guards, stifling a chuckle. Shall we recount him a few stories on the way over? Suggested another. It would not astonish me if he has never been in the charmant Chateau de Lochholz before, so you may want to know what to expect. This should be fort amusant. the Chateau de Locaholes, who had not heard of that infamous stronghold from which none had ever returned. It was indeed one of the works of L'Arthédin, that's Arthedain, long ago, during the reign of Aragon the 14th, when, after the 30 Years' War, the minister Richelieu kept watch on the Huguenots of Angomar. Gazing in front of him, Samoir beheld that mysterious form, that prison around which reigns such profound terror, that fortress which has inspired Hobbiton's most lugubrious traditions for 300 years, suffering no rival, laughing at flattery, secure in its pride and its immeasurable strength. Samoir lurched in the boat and fainted. When he came to several moments later, he determined to make a run for it. It was a strong Obit, and owing to his deep familiarity with the sea, he felt no hesitation to swim in it, even tied up, for his skill with ropes was already legendary, at least among his crewmates. He took a deep breath, leapt up with a bound, and plunged into the water. But just as he was doing a fair imitation of an aquatic Houdini, one of the guards reached in and grabbed him with an enormous claw, and the other guard knocked him out with an oar. When he came to a second time, he was even more thoroughly tied up than before, and the guards were pointing their blunderbuss at his heart. "Make one movement," said the leader, "and your death will be unpleasantly swift." For the rest of the journey, Samjez was cramped and miserable, having nothing to do but stare at the sides of the boats and think how poorly made this vessel was, and how absolutely abominable his captors were at navigating. He resolved to keep his eye open for any opportunity, however remote, for an escape. Unfortunately, none came until they hit land. None came afterwards either, since Samoir was surrounded on all sides by his captors. With their blunderbuss, they dragged him out of the boat, crossed the portcullis, and penetrated the recesses of the dreadful prison through an iron gate that closed behind them ominously. And I guess that will do for now.
Neat parody. Seems almost one for one. Inaccurate.
Yep, it's pretty close. Pretty close so far. Well,
I don't have any other feedback. It's funny. And it's neat to see Lord of the Rings as one of my favorite books, or at least one of my favorite stories. I sometimes have issues with specific, like reading specific books. I prefer abridged versions, honestly, for most of the books that come out in this era. Since Victor Hugo is verbose to the point of parody in many parts of his books.
yeah, this part of the Count of Monte Cristo I abbreviated a lot more than the later bits. When he actually becomes the Count, it gets a bit closer. This bit I think I did like maybe a dozen chapters reduced to like 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah, since since a lot of those books are really long due to their paid by the word system that was going on at the time.
Yeah, that's probably why he has this thing where the dialogue will go on for a while, and it's snap, and people will repeat what the other person said. Someone will say, The count is going to be at the ball. Someone will also say, he is going to be at the ball? Question mark. Yes. Things like that, just an example that hopped into my head. But he'll do that kind of thing a lot.
Yeah. Or, well, I remember like listening to Three Musketeers, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, that wasn't actually like too tangenty. Admittedly, I had just barely gotten off of listening to, like, I had quit listening to Les Mis. It's like, I can't take this anymore. This is so dull.
I read it a long time ago, but it was I think if I remember correctly, it was in the French, but it was but I think that was also abridged. I think they had selections of it. I don't think they had the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just much prefer an abbreviated stuff. Since it's just really, really rough. Sometimes like the Battle of the extended summary of the Battle of Waterloo, just to set up one plot point.
Oh, yeah, that was probably one of the bits that they cut out.
Yeah, or just like the lengthy Marius simping is so frustrating.
I do remember him. Yeah. Let's
Actually,
see.
no, it's not simping. It's stalking, stalking.
But that was okay back then.
Yeah, he's just following her because he doesn't talk to her because reasons.
Oh,
It was
that's
just a good time.
yeah. He wouldn't be the first. Probably wouldn't be the first, and certainly not the last 19th century hero to do that.
I'm glad that we've moved on from
Well,
those
in that
characters.
sense.
Yeah, we still have creepers. Creepers will never die, unfortunately. That's an unfortunate trend that will never ever go away.
You never know. Maybe we'll be able to change everyone's brains and remove them before they ever exist.
Cool.
Nah, hormones and awkwardness will always exist.
You have to cut out.
That's not creepiness, though.
Yeah.
We'll just have to cut out people's hormones.
Yeah, I actually just barely watched Anomaly's like response to Cosmonaut. He was saying Anakin's love for Padme is totally pure, and I'm like, no,
I don't know.
I would. Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. We're not really told that it is or isn't, but it looked a little weird to me.
Define pure.
It's like when he said like Padme's dream, like when Anakin tells Padme, "You're just like I remember you in my dreams." It's like he's like it's probably of a wholesome nature, though he has a still image of Anakin looking at a Natalie Portman Dior magazine.
What?
It's both contradictory points, but also just like, did we watch the same movie, mate? Also, what is your concept of romance?
Probably non-existent.
Well, he managed to get the girl from My Nerdy Home to be his Valentine, and she likes his Aussie accent. So,
The accents, they always get you.
yeah. Alrighty. Well, without further ado, this is Chapter 8 of Night of the Abyss. I'm planning on publishing this one later this year, Actually, hopefully traditionally. That's the plan.
Ooh.
I just need to finish. My plan is to finish it up by April. Since I just need to write the climax and a little bit of the denouement, and then I'm finished.
So you'll be able to get a proper editor then.
Yeah, I'm planning on
Hopefully.
using since I filled up my Roth IRA for the year, I'm going to use my tax return earned to pay for an editor. Since
Do you not
Good,
get
good.
provided one if you get a publisher?
what?
Don't you get a provided an editor if you get like a publisher?
No, I think that you hire an editor and then give it to an agent, and then I think that that's how it works. Since it needs to look good before you turn it in. They don't just say, "Oh, this is a little bit of a piece of work. Maybe we can fix it up and then make it good." They pretty much expect it to be good right when you give it to them, and an editor helps with that.
Okay. I may have to see if I can guess. Luckily, I have a sister who's an editor. Maybe she can look at it if I ever do finish it.
Oh, I wouldn't mind. And if we
No,
were
not
to,
you, me. Sorry.
oh, true. Yeah, I do have like a couple of family members and friends who do it for free. But it's mainly just like seeing if there's like any like editorial stuff that needs to be done.
Yeah, punctuation,
Yeah.
capitalization, boring things like that.
Yeah, thankfully it should be relatively minor on this one. I think it's probably most going to be like, okay, a little bit of talking heads here, or something along those lines.
Yeah. Who doesn't do talking heads sometimes, though?
I know. I try to avoid talking heads as much as I can by putting in like little gestures and stuff to give people a good idea of what's happening.
Jamal
Avoid,
loves
like-
talking.
Oh yeah, yeah. Most people don't seem to like it these days, though, which is frustrating. Which is probably a good thing that we've kind of said like now we expect a little bit better descriptors options at certain places.
Yeah, it's kind of a matter of taste too, though.
Yeah, but it's just kind of like when at least like when I read like and I see like talking heads, I kind of tune out a little bit because it's like okay.
Interesting, because I tend to talk to tune out when there's a long periods of like exposition or whatever, where the narrator is saying da 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 da. I'm like, okay, can we have some conversation?
Well, I kind of what I mean is it's not a matter of like what I mean like in terms of talking heads when it's just he said, she said, he said, he said, he said, and there's nothing else.
Sometimes not even he said or she said.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I like the conversations and I like the writing the dialogue, but I just whenever like I'm writing a conversation, I make sure to try and put little gestures as the context during the conversation to keep people in the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, everything in moderation. Except for alcohol. No alcohol ever.
Or coffee.
Or coffee. Or tea. Or drugs. Or
no
tobacco.
sex and drugs and rock and
I don't
roll.
want to get lung.
No addictions for me, except cola.
Yeah, and yeah, the hardest I will go is a root beer because caffeine just gives me a headache and heart palpitations.
Are you allowed to drink cola?
Yeah, I'm fine to drink cola. The only things
Okay.
that I don't drink are coffee, tea, alcohol, and that's pretty much it in terms of what beverages I can consume.
Yeah, because back in the cocaine days, you probably wouldn't be allowed to have cola.
No.
Very possible. Alrighty. So to summarize, what has happened so far is what happened last chapter was the one Mordred has now gotten back into the physical plane. He's just hijacked another man, a human's body, since he's not human himself. He's something else, called an Elder One, and he's met up with the family of the person that he is possessed, and has volunteered his services in getting them justice for what has happened. And they've also realized, their army is going into a trap laid by demons who are going to bottleneck them. And that's kind of where we left off last time. All right. Kara didn't know what to make of Mordred. They'd offered him a horse that they'd found hitched on the picket lines, but he'd refused, instead opting for running beside her and Varys. Admittedly, he didn't seem to need a horse to easily keep pace with the galloping riders. Do you think you can make enough of a difference in the fight? Right? Kara asked as wrath leaped over a large root. Yes, Mordred said calmly, not even seeming winded. If you can get me near your troops, I'll make the difference. Do you honestly think you can single-handedly turn the tide of battle? Varys asked as they thundered through the brush. Yes. Mordred abruptly held up Gauntlet's hand. Wait, he said, called, pointing to the mist. Look. Kara followed his finger, but couldn't see anything she could tell was a demon or other danger. What is it? Don't you see the wolf shades? Mordred asked. Face asked. I see them. Varys nodded to the mist and drew his sword. What are they doing? Now Kara could see them. Gray, ghostly outlines in the green mist that seemed blown around by the wind that was beginning to pick up. They're old friends. Mordred closed his eyes and waved his hand. And they have long memories. With a flash of purple light, the wolves turned from ghostly apparitions to something more akin to flesh and blood. But there was something slightly otherworldly about them. Their ethereal outlines turning to gray and black fur as they walked toward them. Instantly, the horses began whinnying. But Mordred just looked at the animals and made them calm. These might be fragile troops, he said as the wolves began coursing around them. They are something. How? Varys looked around at the wolves. What are they? The spirits of dead wolves that wander this world. Mordred stroked a particularly large beast on the head. I gave them a physical form, but they aren't as hardy against demons as they would be against men. Incredible, Varys breathed out. How many? 200, I think. Mordred took a deep breath, then he glanced around. You two should stay back initially. I'll clear a path so that you can get to your own troops. Use the wolves to hold out the demons, while you figure out the best way to unleash me on your enemies. Good plan, Varys nodded and hefted his sword. Lead the way, sir. Mordred nodded and made his sword materialize out of the air. Hang back while I scout the way, he said, leaning his blade against his shoulder and running off into the mist. The wolves followed close behind the strange one-armed man. Aged, deformed man, looking like overly large hounds around their master. Do we trust him? Kara asked as he vanished into the mist. I don't think we have a choice. Varys adjusted his grip on his sword and stared out into the mist. We're facing forces and beings beyond our comprehension. Gods and monsters, demons, and other things that we've never seen before. These are our only defense against them. Kara didn't want to admit it, but Varys was right. Even though she'd been healed, she could still remember the spear going through her arm and leg. Feeling somewhat powerless, Kara nudged her horse forward after the wolves, adjusting her sheathed sword. We're going to have to... Wait. Something's wrong. Mordred cut her off at our line of thought off as they reached a hilltop overlooking a large bridge spanning the chasm. There was nothing there, just open woods and an empty bridge. That doesn't make sense. Varys glanced at the sky as if to tell what time it was, then shook his head when his gaze was met by the blank, interlocking tree canopy. They should have gotten here before us. Based on the vague memory I have of the geography of this place, that would make a great deal of sense. Mordred's tone was speculative. However, I think that someone has changed. For some reason, he emphasized the word change oddly. The way people perceive this area. You can do something like that? Varys' voice was slightly strangled, whether in awe or recognition of the military possibilities. It's one of the simpler things we can change. Mordred waved a hand. But we all have the power to destroy another's work. The only way Carr could describe what happened was it was as if a purple haze abruptly covered a large dome that had been covering the area surrounding the bridge. Then the dome shattered. The sounds of fighting abruptly rang out throughout the forest. The horrible sounds of violence crashing against their ears like badly made cymbals slamming together as whatever illusion and covering the area vanished to reveal two desperately clashing armies. Amazing, Kara whispered, sword rasping out of its sheath as she looked down at the army of demons battling her troops. They must be using that magic. Must have been using that magic to more easily ambush the army and not alert reinforcements. Varys nudged his horse forward. We're going to have to prepare to make a dash toward our troops while he, without warning, Mordred leaped into the air, blade in hand, right at the demon army. Varys was about to say something, but instead he cut off as Mordred slammed his blade through the head of one of the massive bull-horned red demons and pulled the creature to the ground. Before any of the other demons could even turn toward him, he sliced the leg off of their bull-horned demon, and with molten cracks along its ash-covered body. Then when it toppled to the ground, fire spurting toward him, he brought his sword down on its mouth, right between its teeth, slicing its head in half. Oh, goddess, Varys breathed. Eyes wide. Oh, goddess, Varys breathed, eyes wide. That's incredible. Kara nodded as Mordred began slaughtering the demons, the wolves crashing into the smaller monsters on the fringes as their master hacked the larger creature. Hacked at the larger creatures, sometimes limb from limb, sometimes cutting and cutting them limb from limb. It was like watching a dance master weave around complete novices as he wove over on the creatures attacking him, swords slicing through flesh, bone, and armor with equal impartiality. However, the thing that stunned Kara most was when he leaped into the air and slammed his sword down on it through the nearest muscular or purple demon's chest. Then, with a display of inhuman strength, he swung his sword around one-handed and threw the body off his sword like it was a grotesque scabbard into the massive demons. The creatures were knocked to the ground by the weight of their fellow, allowing Mordred to charge forward or hack them apart. He's a creature of pure destruction. Mordred watched the battlefield, then pointed as a wide path was rapidly cut through the demons. We need to move quickly, he spurred his horse. Come on, Kara. Pulling herself out of her rapt examination of Mordred's brutal single-handed massacre, Kara followed Varys down to the army that was pushing forward into the demon horde. Sorcerers blasted swathes of monsters, while knights pushed into the gaps and butchered the disoriented or mutilated demons. Through the chaos, Varys and Kara spurred their horses until they were back behind their own lines. What's going on? Lyanna rode up to them on her pudgy brown gelding, Kate close behind her on her graceful silver mare. What kind of sorcery is this? Where is Arthur? Kate asked, grabbing Varys' hand and squeezing it. Is our son all right? Closing his eyes, Varys looked down and shook his head. That was all Kate needed. She covered her mouth and turned away, tears falling down her face. Lyanna did the same, but she just hunched over and let herself weep unashamedly. For a moment, Kate turned back to them, eyes filled with anger. What did they do to him? She demanded. Don't hide anything. Varys gave Kara a look, eyes clearly pained and uncertain as to tell his wife what had happened to their son. What happened? Kate's voice was a shrill shriek. Tell me what happened to our son. He was murdered as part of a ritual to bring back some ancient demigod spirit, Varys explained, voice sounding forced. That much admission of the metaphysical probably hurt him almost as bad as losing his son. However, someone else took the place of the original spirit and is now using his body as a vessel. What? Kate stared at them both, eyes darting between Kara and Varys. How? What? It can't be true. Kara swallowed and glanced back toward the battlefield, somewhat shocked by the literal spray of demon bodies as Mordred wrought wholesale slaughter amongst their ranks. It's true, she confirmed reluctantly. I saw it. No, Kate whispered. I don't believe it. I can't believe it. Not until I see the body. Varys looked distinctly uncomfortable as he studiously avoided looking over his shoulder toward Mordred's tearing through the demons alongside the human soldiers. Kara didn't have his restraint. That might be easier than you think, she said. He's out there. She pointed. Kara's eyes widened as she followed. Kate's eyes widened as she followed Kara's toward Mordred. As soon as she saw the one-armed demigod, her face visibly tightened. "I'll kill him," she growled. "I'll tear him apart, limb from limb." "I'll help," Lylana put in firmly. "Do you actually think you can kill that?" Kara gestured toward the field where Mordred had just shot forward without moving his legs, blades skewing through the three small demons before flinging them to the side. For the first time, Kate actually seemed to look at what exactly their new friends was doing to the demons. "What is he?" she demanded. "I can see his aura all around him. It's like a storm of purple energy. Most people only have a mist around them." "He's not really human," Kara said hesitantly, not sure how to convey what Mordred had told her and Varys. "Maybe he'll be able to explain it better than me." "He'd better," Kate said flatly, then she frowned. "Wait, what is..." She paused and reached out her hand. Then her eyes changed color. Kara stared as Kate's eyes changed from blue to purple with silver streaks. "So much power." Lylana paused, then her eyes changed as well. Without warning, she thrust out her hand and closed her fist. Purple and black balls of fire appeared in the sky and slammed into the demons' ranks, turning them to ash. Kate's eyes began growing bright purple as she gestured toward the soldiers. Instantly, Kara gasped as she felt strength and vitality surge inside her, clenching her fist around her sword. Clearly experiencing the same increase in strength, the soldiers surged forward, attacking the demons with even more ferocity than they had before. Varys breathed out slowly and tightened his grip on his sword. "It must be one of his powers," he said, looking down at his arm. "I feel 30 years younger just from that enhancement." "Well then, let's get into it then." And that's the end. Yeah, fairly simple stuff. At least of today. Mostly just aftermath, a little bit of action, but we're going to get a pretty good duel in the next one. Any specific thoughts or?
Not particularly.
Okay.
Specific thoughts. There is one thing I did notice. Well, there were a couple of things, but there's one thing I did notice.
Mm-hmm.
Literal spray. Oh, blah, blah. I mean, generally speaking, the words literal and literally should be, I think, avoided, especially in fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because people use them to not even mean literal. It doesn't even mean anything. So it's just a vague intensifier. But even when it is literally the case, you don't need to tell people who are reading that something that you're describing is happening is literally happening, because they will assume it's literally happening. So
Okay.
even when it's accurate, it's best avoided. But when it's not accurate, when it's just a vague intensifier, it sounds, oh God, how to put this? It does not sound professional.
Really?
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, okay. I've just heard it used. I think Robert Jordan used it fairly frequently at certain points.
Well, that would be a defect in Robert Jordan. I'm sure he's a wonderful author otherwise, but that would be a
Really?
defect.
Huh. Okay.
Yes, it's yes,
Like-
because the word literal means, if you're not using it to mean literal, there's no point in using it at all. And then if you are using it to mean literal, you're describing something that's happening anyway. It's unnecessary. It's at best unnecessary, and at worst, it just sounds bad.
Okay.
In my not particularly humble opinion on that subject.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought that it sounded decent because like literally bodies are spraying in all directions around him.
But it's not actual spray. But even if it is
Well-
actual spray, you don't need it.
Well, it
Yeah.
depends on whether or not, one, it's dialogue, two, it's a character thinking this, or three, narrator. Because literal can be used to convey how the person's thinking of the situation.
I guess if it's in quotation marks and or if it's in someone's thoughts or something, even then it's jarringly contemporary. But then maybe that you want to me, but that's a matter of taste. But so I can say it's not totally. If in dialogue it may not be totally unacceptable, but in the narrator voice, it should be left out unless it's really, really, really necessary.
Okay.
So that was the only major problem I had.
Makes sense.
And the rest sounded fine. Let's see if we get what's happening. Basically, they're attacking the demons. Basically, they're still fighting against the demons. Basically, Mordred is helping them,
Mm-hmm.
and he can just run beside them without. He doesn't need to because he doesn't need a horse because he's like because he's like some kind of spirit or something.
Basically, it's kind of kind of vaguely similar metaphysical equivalent to resurrection, where your body is perfected.
Oh,
Okay.
Cool.
His is slightly imperfect is the issue. That's the major problem that he has.
So it's a glorified body, but not totally glorified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's basically like he's been enhanced. His spirit has massively enhanced the body that he is in. But there are some problems. He has to regain his power whenever he uses it, as opposed to just kind of having it on hand. There's also a lot of physical tiredness that he has to deal with at a lot of points.
Yeah.
And he actually has to deal with human biological urges and needs.
No comment.
Which he hates.
Yeah, biology's a bore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, and he can also tame those. Was it wolves or something?
More like he creates bodies for dead wolves. Temporary bodies, at least.
Oh, okay.
But it's very shoddy, and it's no better than their original bodies, so they can easily be killed.
I want my money back.
Yeah. Well, it's free, so can't get any money off of something that's free.
Oh, bother.
They pay with pain.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Cool. Well, we will call it good for today. I need to schedule a Batman Era 2 thing. And then after that, we'll do a Batman Era 3, where we will kind of lump in Batman v Superman, the Batman. I'm just going to call it Pat and Bat. At the Pat and Bat movie. And then Joker.
And at some point, we're going to do the influences stream.
Yeah, I need to figure out when to do that. Yeah, I do definitely need to figure that out.
Are we
But-
doing Witcher tomorrow?
Witcher? Yes, we should be. Yeah.
Oh, what's this about Rumble though? Did they delete your account again?
Yep, they did.
Oh,
Why?
Because because I forgot to put Batman Returns on private.
Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it.
So now I just need to create a new email and get that all worked out. It's annoying. Yeah.
Really
sucks.
annoying.
Yeah, it sucks. But such is life.
Indeed.
Destroy it.
Well, I need it because I'm not wasting my time trying to edit it on YouTube. I just need to waste a lot of time working on getting the dang thing to work.
Sounds like a riot. Sounds like a gas.
Sounds like a gas, baby. Bring it on.
Bring it on. Okay.
Alrighty. Well, we'll call it good for today. You guys want to see more of our content? We are hopefully going to be back up on Rumble soon, and I'll just be putting up a whole mess of content, which I think you guys might like. At least I hope you guys like it. Anyway, we will call it good for today, and we will see you guys on the next one. And as he says, have a riot.